50 Cent has spent basically his whole career putting together schemes for cash. Sometimes he just needs to stay in the limelight by stirring beef. Other times, it's the fact that he's made up tons of lies about his life, then he got caught in the act. But this most recent debacle might be the last time he gets away scot-free for the cap. He apparently cooked up a hustle with Young Buck to act like they were arguing, but in reality, Buck says there's nothing but love between them. Young Buck came out about it, but how deep does it run? Is 50 done? Okay, first, we're gonna hop into it from the beginning of 50 Cent's controversies so we can get to what's going on, which just might be the last thing anyone hears of 50. We all know him for his hits like In the Club from 2003 or Candy Shop from 2005, but there's a lot more to the man than just club bangers from the early noughties. He grew up selling substances in Queens, starting when he was 12, according to him at least. From there, he got into production. Before his album dropped, he was shot, and his album never got released when it was supposed to.
Came around behind it and shot through the actual car.
Luckily for him, he was discovered by Eminem and Dr. Dre shortly after, who put him on.
Who is this guy?
When 50 finally got into the rap game and out of the trap game, he took some homies with him. These homies were known as G-Unit, which is also the name of the label that 50 Cent would go on to establish. Young Buck, Lloyd Banks, and Tony Yayo were all a part of it. G-Unit actually only put out 2 studio albums, and they're not active anymore after a string of different legal struggles for a lot of the members. But one of these members in specific is going to figure into the discussion in a big way very soon. But before we get to that, it's important to look at 50 Cent's personal history. There's a few things from the early career of 50 that he'd most likely prefer to forget. He still bickers with his first wife on social media, and he's talked about how he used to love his son, hinting at a whole bunch of family problems, right? Now, this isn't even the bulk of it. It's not like it just stays in his family. In 2016, 50 Cent was seen making fun of a man with autism in an airport. He's since apologized for this one and said that he didn't know at the time the man was autistic. He also donated $100,000 to Autism Speaks, a fairly controversial autism charity after the incident. The next big thing going on here is when in 2002, cops found 2 pistols in his car parked outside of a club. They searched the car at first because it had tinted windows, but inside they found these weapons. In 2004, 50 Cent jumped into an audience after a group of people threw a water bottle at him while he was performing. He got hit with a probation charge for 2 years since he caught a case for assault and battery. So 50 hasn't exactly got a clean record, which all adds to his IRL gangster persona, right? What fans never expected from him was straight up fakery. It's about time we start getting into the thick of the G-Unit drama with Young Buck and how this might mark the end of 50's career for good. We're gonna have to take a look at both sides of the story to dig into this though. A beef broke out, and it's not entirely clear if it was real or if it was for show. The whole thing started way back in April 7th of 2008 when 50 came out and publicly acknowledged that Young Buck would no longer be a part of the G-Unit clique.
It doesn't work in a group setting. You see what I'm saying? Because his intentions change. Like, you can't be on a team and just be playing baseball by yourself.
50 said in an interview with Hot 97 at the time, "I think you have to give him something to blow it out of proportion." Buck did that. I think that what he was saying, in order to validate himself as a man, he feels he has to go against what I'm doing. Similar to some of the things we've seen from Game. He'll back off of it when we're in direct conversation. When he's out in public, he'll say something. They're like my younger brothers, but they'll do for attention. They'll do things, then when I look like, "What you doing?" They'll be like, "Oh, no, because you was doing this. Because you didn't call me when you were on the international tour." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You didn't call neither, so what does that mean?" It seems like a lot of the initial fallout had to do with pride. Some people thought Young Buck was feeling bigger than he was, and aside from all the other controversy, he felt like he had to put himself at odds with 50. In that situation, he was probably thinking he was going to be a star, and if stirring up controversy with 50 was a way to do it, that's what it would take. After years of being silent, Buck said the following in an interview on Vlad TV in January 2021 about what went down. "We were 6 months into the situation of getting back together, and out of nowhere, this interview comes out. And it was one of those interviews where prior to us getting back together, I had spoken on me not receiving any publishing, never seeing a royalty check in my career. Everything I had made had been off shows. Well, that was the big and bold headline, and it comes across 50's desk. Now, just so we can make all of this clear, it's 100% not normal for musicians to make money purely off of shows. Sure, that's a lot of it, but they usually only really make money off of the merch in those situations. For Young Buck to get absolutely no pay whatsoever after working on stuff with G-Unit is messed up. Young Buck also came out to say he immediately took this from a place of, I know why now, but at the time, he reacted to that so f***ed up. Sha Money was like, yo, we gotta fix this, bro. 50's tripping out over this. And I'm like, well, Sha, how can I fix it? It's the truth. I ain't never seen a royalty check. He's like, yeah, I know, but we gotta fix it. That's when Sha told Buck that he basically had $10 million snatched right from under his nose. That's a $10 million check that he's never seen to this day. Buck continued. Those were numbers that were basically accumulated from Sha Money trying to protect the situation from 50, having an actual fit based on me speaking about me not seeing money like that, or even receiving a royalty check. 50 Cent then pretty much went on to say that instead Young Buck already got paid and just blew the entire $10 million. We don't exactly know how G-Unit runs, but usually you keep books for this kind of thing so that these situations don't happen when you're running a business. According to Buck, it wasn't long after this situation went down that 50 went on to Hot 95 and said Buck was no longer part of the group. Now, 50 might say it was nothing to do with money, but let's be real, the timing doesn't look great. So while this entire thing seemed to go on for over a decade, fans were shocked when Young Buck did a complete 180 and claimed the entire beef was staged. When finally pressed on the issue of the entire drama in March 2021, this is what he had to say about it. Whole time, bro, we made all you motherfuckers think that it's beef and we don't like each other. I just got off the phone with the nigga. We just shot a video yesterday, about to drop it and give it to the world. The social media shit got people up. Y'all got played this whole time. He even went on to say that this was all planned from start to finish. We sat down and master planned this shit out. 50 was like, I'ma say all kinds of shit about you, nigga. I'ma make them fucking hate you. Then you gonna make them love you again. I just followed the plan. And then all of a sudden, I guess he was right because they love me again and I did it. I made them love me again. Could that really be true? After everything that went down, 50's story is different? The rapper came back and called him an impulsive liar, although he probably meant compulsive. He claimed instead that Buck was trying to save face, saying, shake my head. He only makes a fool of himself, and the transgender man that he was dating for a year gets angry every time he says he got catfished. Stop lying, damn. We don't need to point out that 50 Cent's language is wrong here, but geez, man. Not only is that tweet a problem because it's bigoted, but 50's also been pretty homophobic historically, and that seems to carry over to being transphobic too. Just to bolster that opinion, here's something he said in response to Perez Hilton back in 2010. Perez Hilton called me a dick bag, so I had my homies shoot up a gay wedding. Wasn't his, but still made me feel better. This was obviously a joke, but it was not one in good taste. These are words of a man who should have been canceled a long time ago. The way he talks about these kinds of things and the way he continues to try to cover himself afterward with half-hearted apologies is unacceptable. After all of that, we can pretty much form an opinion of how things really went down. It seems like 50 Cent is blowing up something that's completely a non-issue because Buck called him out. It's not an okay way to handle things, but 50's notoriously a hard guy to deal with. At this point, we could go ahead and trash on 50, like his behavior was absolutely shocking, but it's really not. We should just come to expect all sorts of mess from him. It's sad that someone we all grew up with is straight exposing himself as an awful person, but that's the way it is sometimes. This isn't anything new. We've seen him come out and put his foot in his mouth time and time again. As for who's telling the truth about what actually happened, only these guys know what really went down. It doesn't even really matter at this point whether or not 50 manufactured the beef. That's not the problem here. It kills all his clout if he was lying, but at the same time, his language alone is enough to kill his career, so long as people are actually looking at it. He should have shut down a long time ago, but there's a good chance that this is the last time he'll screw up. From lying about how many times he's been shot and making fun of autistic people to the homophobia, we gotta call it here. What do you guys think? Is this the end for 50? Who's capping here? Let us know in the comments down below. And remember to share, like, and subscribe. So keep it here for the latest rap news and gossip. Deuces.